this is a challenge board. And, one of the big drivers with challenges is you're tracking all these numbers and you want to get your agents engaged with the data that you're tracking. So one of the best ways to do that is taking these challenges, putting them up on dashboards in your office, and then running it that way. One sec, I'm just going to make sure that we let all these people into the meeting. Cool. So with the challenges, once again, you're taking all that data, you're putting it in front of your agents, you're making these numbers mean something, because historically, a lot of times all these KPIs get tracked and the only person looking at them is the admin team, and they're not as visible, they're not gamified, and the agents aren't really competing on them. So this is the challenge screen. You've seen it. Couple things just to keep in mind here. Basically, each of these cards or these challenges are where the agents are earning points. So you can create a challenge for any metric you want. You can run it over any time period you want. And there are different types of challenges too, or basically different point systems that you can create with each type of challenge. You call it what you want. You can call out incentives here. So this is an example that we took from one of the teams that's using this, where they say, hey, the top 3 closers over the year, they're getting their flight to Cabo paid for. We're doing club, or we're doing our trip or our retreat or whatever it is. And there's some kind of incentive type here. And a couple other metrics that are gamified. And I can modify what's actually showing up on this overall scoreboard. So I use the filters up here to do that. Right now I have all the challenges. I can select just one challenge if I want to. For 2019 that are active meaning there are still being points collected and it hasn't, the challenges down here have not ended yet. And I'm looking at it for my team. And if I have different groups within my team or different pods of agents, I could show a scoreboard, or maybe I have 2 separate offices. I could filter down the scoreboard so that it's only showing for that office. So if I were to change this, for example, to all challenges in 2019, now I'm showing everything, every challenge that is running or has run in 2019. So this is really cool for like I was talking to someone who does like an agent of the year challenge, where they're taking basically whoever's going to be agent of the year is whoever earns the most points over the course of that year. And they can earn points from any challenge. And these team leaders will throw out like a weekly challenge. They'll say, hey guys, you want to earn some points this week? It's you got to send handwritten thank you notes, or you got to do open houses, or whatever it is, different ways to just kind of keep it interesting, right? Or they'll come out daily and say, hey guys, call blitz today. You earn 10 points for every conversation you have, that kind of stuff. So I could also go and show priority challenges. So this is a way for you to get really flexible with what you're showing up here. So you'll notice that the only challenges that are showing, it doesn't matter if they're expired or if they're active, they're showing because I've checked this little priority box right here. So this is useful if, say you are, say you have a yearly challenge that's running over the course of the entire year where they're earning points, but then you want to do a monthly contest where only the priority challenges are counting towards that monthly contest. You don't want the yearly ones counting even though they're active. That's how you can run this and just basically select which challenges you want showing up on the scoreboard here. Obviously, whatever way that you have it filtered, you put it up in display mode, put it on full screen, and that's how you can start to show this, with your team, the different leaders and who has those points. And that's where the challenge actually gets interesting. A lot of times we'll see that, without Sisu, people will be running challenges, but the point collection process and the admin overhead and the hassle of like actually collecting who's earned what points and trying to send out email blasts or whatever to keep people engaged, it's a huge headache. So this is where it simplifies a lot. Any questions? Anyone can drop a question in the chat right now before I move on to the next thing. Frank, did you want to add, or Betsy, add anything?
No, I don't. I just know that I know that our teams that really haven't embraced an accountability culture. That's one of the first things we'll do is try to have them starting to run challenges, right, Zach? Like who can track the most days. So getting, if you haven't ran any challenges, it's definitely a way to, to rapidly increase the engagement of not only Sisu, but like our teams that will set up challenges that have integration with Follow Up Boss or Sync or Boomtown. You know, if they're making calls out of Follow Up Boss or out of out of Mojo, Sync, or Boomtown and Mojo, and the only way to get some points on the board is to use Mojo, Sync, Boomtown, then you're actually increasing the engagement of those third-party systems. So there's a lot of value to run challenges, because essentially if we're the entity that, or the platform that stores those challenges and displays the challenges, it really does encourage the, you know, it requires the use of the third-party systems that you're paying for your agent. So, I mean, what you say, Zach, from that perspective, as far as increasing the usage and the engagement of your existing technology, there's a lot of value to gamify it.
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of people say, well, I already have my CRM and now I'm going to throw another system on top of that, and my agents are, you know, they get systems overload. Well, it's really not, because a lot of these metrics are pulling right from their CRM in many cases. And so you're driving the engagement with that CRM. Really good point, Frank.
As
yeah.
well as not just, sorry to interrupt, not just like systems, but, you know, pulling in how many subscribers did you get from your viral, you know, your viral newsletter? How many Facebook posts did you get? How many, you know, it's just all the different, how many bonbon videos are you sending out? Any different ways to those systems that you're already kind of telling them to use, making a game, making a challenge out of it that aggregates to, you know, to who's the best agent for the year. There's a lot of value to that. So, you know, and then you evaluating where your lead's coming from based on lead source, you kind of get an influence with these challenges, what challenges you run. If you know that certain, you know, your certain deals and transactions are more profitable based on lead source, then you can run challenges based on the profitability of that lead source. So you really almost get to play puppet master with, you know, with your team as far as influencing them positively towards the right behavior.
Yeah. Another good thing to add is it's not just buy-in with your systems. It can be buy-in with your processes too, right? If you're running a contest on listings signed, and your agents, in order to get credit for a listing signed, they have to go into Sisu and log it. And you also tell them, hey, our transaction coordinator, the only way they can kick off your listing process is if it's in Sisu, because they're going into Sisu, they're pulling all the data from there, and that's how they're running everything. You're getting buy-in not only with your systems, but with your processes, and with this, you know, competitive kind of gamified element. So, good point, Frank. Let's hop into actually setting up these challenges. So, if you just go into admin challenges here, this is where you can create these different cards that are showing down below. There's a lot of flexibility here, so I can call the challenge what I want. I do like to create the challenge name that, if there is an incentive, have it tied to, or something that explains what the challenge is. So like 100 conversations or gift card, or whatever, you know, whatever you want to call it, or 100 conversations in August, right? I can select the scope. So once again, this means who can earn points on this challenge. Is it the whole team, or can only certain groups within your team earn points on this challenge? The enrollment, that just means if everybody is in on it. So if I have group 2 here, I think there's some more updates coming out with this in the future where you could exclude certain agents from this, but that's just kind of there right now. Not a whole lot you need to do with that. Category, this is where you can select any metric. So a lot of the metrics that you're tracking, any of the custom activities that you have, as well as there's these other 2 that might be interesting for you, which are days tracked. Frank mentioned this. A lot of the coaching companies that we'll work with, when they roll this out, the first thing they say is, hey, the very first challenge we're going to have is you just getting into Sisu and logging some numbers. Every day you get in there, every day you log, and, you know, whatever it is, you get credit for a day tracked. And then longest streak is how many consecutive days have you logged numbers in Sisu. So lots of metrics there to choose from. I'm just going to select the basic one. We'll do, we'll say dials. We'll say 1,000 dials in August. The challenge type, so these are all outlined over here. But basically what this is race means first, second, and third get a certain point value. Everybody wins means that basically everybody can win. There's a threshold. So this is actually what I'm looking for here. I'm saying if you get 1,000 dials, you're going to get the point value. If you don't, if you don't get at least 1,000, then you're not going to get the points. So I'll select everybody wins, and then per unit, pretty self-explanatory. This would be like every dial is worth 10 points, or however I want to do that. The threshold, that's going to be 1,000. That's the number they got to exceed. It's a count threshold. It's not volume. It's per unit there. So 1,000 is the count. I'm going to run this over August. So I'm going to say, what is August? August 2019. And I'm going to select the amount of points that somebody will get if they meet this challenge. So we'll just leave it at 3,000. I can create recurring challenges. Just make sure you're monitoring those, or if you want a certain challenge to run every single month. Hey guys, our benchmark or our standard of excellence is 1,000 dials every single month, and I'm going to set this up to recur every month so that challenge is always running. I don't have to go in here and set it up again. So create that challenge, and then I can go back to my dashboard and see it. Now, one thing to keep in mind here, the challenge process runs every 15 minutes. So it's pretty close to real time. It's not quite real time where it runs on the hour, on the 15, on the 30, on the 45, and then on the hour again. So when you're creating these challenges, then you go in and you're like, what the heck, it's not showing up in my challenges board. You just got to wait till that next 15-minute increment, and you'll see it reflected. So pause there. Any questions? Feel free to raise your hand, drop it in the chat. But it is a pretty self-explanatory system. There's a lot more things that they're continually doing with this. So if you have any feedback on the challenges, one big thing that we get a lot is people want to pit two teams against each other. So that's something we're working on right now, where currently it's just a free-for-all, right? And there are some ways that you could break down a scoreboard for one team and for another team, and maybe show them on separate monitors to kind of get that team feel. But our plan is to build like a team-specific element where you could do, kind of imagine it like blue team over here and red team over here, and it's showing the point totals and the top performers on that board. That's kind of the vision of where we're going with this. So a lot of teams like to gamify it that way. One last thing I want to go over here, and then we'll talk about a really cool framework for using these challenges. The scoreboard here is where you can get a historical breakdown of who's earned points and where they've earned points. So I can see here, if I click on my name, you can actually see where I've earned all my challenges, and we're starting to create like a badging system here. So if you've used any other app that kind of has like this gamified like achievement-based system, you start to earn badges and you start to get credit. Like you have a profile type, hey, you're a top conversationalist, or you're a top prospector, and it's starting to break down, where you're a top performer. That's kind of where this is going as far as gamification goes. Benchmarks, hey, congrats, you've hit 1,000 conversations now, and that kind of stuff. So and look into each of these contests and see, the actual leaderboard there, and I can see that I won this contest and I won 1,000 points from it. So getting into framework off of this. So a lot of people will ask, okay, hey, I want to do a challenge. What are some of the top metrics that I can use or that I can gamify? What are the top teams doing, as far as the way that they structure these contests to get the most buy-in? Tom Ferry did a podcast a little while back, and he said, if you're struggling in a certain area, say you're low on listing inventory, run a listings contest, incentivize based on listings, incentivize based on those lead measures. So maybe you're doing dials and listing appointments set or listing appointments met, right? Those are really good things to gamify on if you're low on listings inventory. Say you're bringing in a ton of leads, but you just don't feel like you're getting the conversion that you should. You don't feel like the follow-up is there. Then you're going to want to do a contest based on dials and conversations. Just get people hitting the phones as much as possible. But what we talked with, there's a guy, I think we have quite a few Mike Shum coaching clients in here, but he talked about how he likes to do contests. Is he likes to do a quarterly contest where your effort at the beginning of the contest can affect your performance at the end of the contest as well. Because say I run a contest for September based on closings, right? And there's a certain amount of points based on closings. Well, the work to get those closings, happened last week or they happened last month, right? So there's not a lot I can do right now to create those closings in September. And so what Mike says is if you're doing a quarterly contest, say you're running it over 3 months, focus on lead measures the first month, your conversations, dials, and appointments. Second month, focus on conversion. So appointments met, clients signed, buyers, sellers under contract, that kind of stuff. And then the last month, focus on closings and the actual fruits of what's happened in those first 2 months. So it's a really good way to kind of spread that effort out across 3 months. Now you want to be careful because last thing you want is them only prospecting in the first month and then they forget about it for the next 2 months. And then when this challenge is over, now you're back to square one with no production. But that could be a really cool way to say, hey, start now. We're going to run this contest over 3 months. There's a big incentive. Go out there, go hard, and earn some points. So I thought that was a really good framework. I don't know, Frank, Fetzi, maybe some things that you guys have heard about challenges or maybe your 2 cents that you want to add in here.
I don't. I think you hit it pretty well. I think the nice thing about the system, it's extremely flexible, so you can kind of incorporate, peer feedback or coach feedback regarding setting up contests and challenges. I know we've had customers that they really like to take advantage of it for call nights or call blitz, and have seen some really increased performance. I think it's a whole other discussion as far as what motivates your agents. As far as what drives an agent, how do you reward them? It isn't always money. It's about picking the right, don't you think, Zach, as far as picking the right reward, where, maybe a couple of our customers have done, they will do having lunch with the owner, so many of them, felt like they would be really motivated by that, and they were. So that drives performance more than even money. A night stay at a hotel, kind of a staycation. So really just picking what drives the right behavior. It isn't, even though we are all salespeople, money isn't always the motivator. It's oftentimes getting to know your team and what really is motivating for them. Maybe it's time. Maybe it is a weekend stay. Maybe it's a material item. So I think oftentimes it's picking the right reward and building the challenge around that. So.
Yeah, another cool incentive type that I really like. Some people, they're using like a OpCity or Zillow direct leads or whatever you call them. They'll say, hey, if you win this challenge, you get an extra day on lead gen, right? You get an extra day where those calls, those hot leads are routed to you first because you're showing that you're the one following up and converting on all these leads. So you're actually going to get more leads if you're showing that you can convert them at a higher rate or that you're following up with them more efficiently than the rest of the team. So that's another cool incentive that I've seen thrown out there that actually seems to work very well. And just communicating. I mean, the real incentive in this is if you're killing it in a challenge, you're going to be making a ton of money in commissions too. So salespeople are intrinsically motivated like that, and generally pretty competitive. The best salespeople, at least, are generally pretty competitive. So, yeah, great point, Frank. That's all I got for today. I think that's a good chunk of content that we've covered. Open for questions. Shoot us an email if you have anything that you'd like to see as far as this challenges system go. It is a big part of the platform. People talk about getting engagement and wanting to, really get their agents engaged with this. I mean, this is one of the main ways to do it. That's how you track these numbers, but actually make them mean something. So it can really create some cool results. We've seen people do call nights and increase their appointment set by 30% because they're showing a leaderboard there in the middle of the call room where everybody's competing towards it. And, every time you set an appointment, you see and you feel rewarded and motivated, and that just keeps the momentum going. We share an office with a real estate team as well. Every time I'm in there, they're going out in the morning. Many of you know Spring, just going out in the morning and saying, hey, metric is dials today. Whoever gets the most dials gets, this. So thanks for joining. Reach out in the chat box if you have questions, or happy to answer them. And good luck with your challenges.
Thanks, Zach.
Yep. See you guys.